anything that's funny, we get more of it. Lots of war on poverty, double the poverty. War on drugs, did we win that war? No. There's drugs everywhere. That ratcheted up the police state, justified hiring more and more police and building more and more prisons. Well, when you've got a president like George W. Bush that absolutely refused to secure the southern border, it's insane. Okay, we're coming up on a break. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors here on The Real News. We are back on The Real News Radio with Farron and Brian. We're waiting to be joined with Congresswoman Virginia Foxx. So while we've got a couple minutes, I would like to let you know that Liberty News Radio, the website's libertynewsradio.com. You can call in. They have a new number. You can call in to listen to the programs, and that number is 801-769-2970. And you can listen to any of the archives now of this show or any of the other shows for free. And again, their website is libertynewsradio.com. It's a great source of information. They have a lot of the news there that you can check out that the mainstream press doesn't cover. Again, we are going to be in September doing a series, Constitution, Fact, or Fiction. We're lining up guests. We're going to give out a lineup of guests yet because some have not been solidified, but we are going to give out in September a list of all the guests we contacted, and we are going to state who agreed to come on and who did not. If you're not familiar with this, I urge you to look into the Constitution, August 9th, 1933, FDR, and we're going to be covering this. We do know for certain that Dr. Gene Schroeder is going to be joining us, and we've got a lot of different clips we're going to play related to that. We will start that September 5th. Not sure how long it will run, but I do think that everyone will find that interesting. Our website is therealnewsradio.com. You can go there. Any of the clips that we play on the air will be on the website. A lot of different information. You can also email us on air at therealnewsradio.com. And all waiting to be joined with Miss Virginia Foxx. Brian, this past week, it was reported by the Progressive newspaper, the Pentagon wants authority to post almost 400,000 military personnel in the U.S. And this goes right along with swine flu, some of what we've been covering, but haven't seen this anywhere in the press since it came out. August 13th, the Pentagon has approached Congress to grant the Secretary of Defense the authority to post almost 400,000 military personnel throughout the United States in times of an emergency or a disaster. The request has already occasioned a dispute with the nation's governors, and it raises the prospect of U.S. military personnel patrolling the streets of the United States in conflict with the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. In June, the U.S. Northern Command distributed a congressional fact sheet entitled Legislative Proposals for Activation of Federal Reserve Forces for Disasters. That proposal would amend current law, therefore authorizing the Secretary of Defense to order any unit or member of the Army Reserve, Air Force Reserve, Navy Reserve, or the Marine Corps Reserve to active duty for a major disaster or emergency. Taken together, these reserve units would amount to more than 379,000 military personnel in thousands of communities across the United States. Paul Stockton, Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense and American Security Affairs, in a letter to the National Governors Association dated July 20th. So, Brian, we're seeing more and more of this. I think you might have brought that with you also. But just amazing information. I mean, if you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, it looks like we are really poised for what Congressman Brown was stating, possible martial law scenarios here in the United States. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I was alluding to earlier, this is what, criminals continuously march towards their goals. And, I mean, there's really not much of a difference between the times we're witnessing now and perhaps even thousands of years ago. This is what criminals do. I mean, they are eternally vigilant. That's why we need to be also.
Well, it's time for there to be a real wake-up in America and the people to come to the conclusions that what our government is coming out with represents a complete failure of representing we the people. And we've let it go on for too long. It's time we take our government back. We're going to go into it at some point during today's broadcast, but the militia groups have been back in the news, and they are saying they're seeing a rise in the militia, just like in the 1990s, probably going to try to, anyone that's associated with, that really stand for patriotism and freedom, they're going to be demonized as militia, just like Bill Cooper and others. So it's an interesting situation that we've got here in America. And with respect to what we were talking about doing our series on the Constitution, A Search for the Truth, I was speaking to Mike. He's a regular listener, and he pointed out that all through the 90s, I went to gun shows and really didn't have money to buy guns, but I went to get information. There was all kind of different information you could buy there, and a lot of UFO kind of information. But there was no information on the War Powers Act, Constitution being suspended, even though that was when Dr. Dean Schroeder had wrote the book and was doing the tour, Rodney Miller also. None of that information there, and I think that speaks volumes as to why this kind of information has been suppressed. So when we really get into this next month, I think everyone will be very surprised at what we're going to be bringing out. We're still waiting to be joined by Virginia Foxx. We've got about 4 minutes in this segment. If there's any news you'd like to cover, Brian, go ahead.
Economists claim the economy is recovered. It's like somebody borrowing money from their uncle and then celebrating that their income has gone up.
Yeah.
John Hussman, Ph.D. economist and former professor of economics and international finance at the University of Michigan, has a great quote. If you look carefully at the economic data that shows improvement and correct the impact of government outlays, it's difficult to find anything but continued deterioration in private demand investment. What we do see is a government that has run what is now $1 trillion deficit year to date, representing some 7% of GDP. That sort of tag will undoubtedly buy some amount of Kool-Aid. But it has been something of a disappointment to watch how eagerly investors have guzzled down this news. It is not clear at all that the short-term deficit finance improvement necessarily implies sustained growth in the context of a deleveraging cycle. This is like somebody borrowing money from their uncle and then celebrating that their income has gone up.
Well, just this month, was it not 300,000 jobs lost, which was the least in 12 months, and the media is portraying things are turning around.
Celebrating that is a good piece of economic news.
Doublespeak. Doublespeak is what we're witnessing. We've lost the fewest amount of jobs in 12 months, but it's still a staggering 300,000, which is, I don't know how many million or where we're at in the last 12 months, but it's a lot. And they're trying to paint it for the American people, which believe what a TV tells them, dresses like a TV tells them, thinks what a TV tells them. And I've had a lot of people coming in the store, oh yeah, but it's turning around. And then when I say, well, show me the jobs, where's the factories being built? Show me the proof. There's nothing but you're regurgitating what a TV told you. And then they stand kind of blank-faced and dumbfounded. But it's amazing and they get by with this. And I know TV telling people bad information all the time, or it keeps everyone down. But I mean, we gotta tell the truth. We're looking for the truth, no matter where it leads. We're not going to say things are good if they're bad. And the government purposely has exported all the jobs to control the American people, to take us where they want us to go, just like refusing to secure the southern border, at the same time telling you to be scared just to death that the terrorist was about to get you. And as Brian said, anytime they declare war on anything, declare war on drugs, double the drugs, declare war on poverty, triple the poverty. But the American people, the ones of us that work and pay the bills and pay taxes, are forced to do that. Half the population working, so the other half don't. It's doomed to fail. It's socialism in action, and this president is trying his darn best to take us the rest of the way. Is he not, Brian? All right, we're coming up on a break. You're listening to The Real News with Farron and Brian, and we'll be back after a word from our sponsors. All right, we are back on TheRealNewsRadio.com.